So hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be looking not only at the new Nintendo Switch games, but also the new Nintendo Switch 2 games. And for the moment, I'll be combining both in one same video. Obviously, because there aren't that many Switch 2 focused games coming out on a weekly basis. But as usual, don't forget that if I forget any games, let me know which ones I may be overlooked in the comments down below. And at the same time, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Now let's jump into the new games for this week. So our first game for this week, we're actually going to start with a Nintendo Switch 2 game. But to be totally honest, it is not only a Nintendo Switch 2 game because there is a Switch 1 release. However, in my opinion, I do think that most people targeting this game are going to be going, if you can, for the Nintendo Switch 2 version. And that is Raidou Remastered, an action RPG from Atlus that honestly is very interesting, both graphically and story-wise. It has the same look as the Shin Megami Tensei series, which is a great RPG series. The only thing is I'm not quite sure I'll have time to play through this game because it's an Atlus RPG. You most likely are going to have to expect quite a few hours of gameplay, but I've got to say, if you are in the market for this kind of game for this week, it is going to be probably a great pickup. And this game is going to be selling for $49.99 for its regular version. Now, there are digital deluxes for more than that, and you can see your local currency up top on the top of the screen. But I do think that for the price, you're most likely going to get a great deal of value out of this game. Now let's take a look at the trailer and see what the game is all about.
Devil's Bane.
I love the sort of 1950s look that it has and all that.
In the Taisho era, we're the only detectives that specialize in that sort of thing.
And take that
yes,
CC
this is
off.
the Army Detective Agency.
Please, sir. Please, help.
Righto, got a case. Let's roll.
Honestly, I was unfamiliar with the original Raidou, so if I do play through the game, for me it's going to be a totally new experience.
The Dark Realm is like a junction between the real world and the netherworld.
Bravo, detective. Or should I say, devil summoner. Raidou Kuzunoha.
You may call me Goto. Take it easy.
And it has those same vibes as the Shin Megami Tensei series, that mix of real world with devil world.
And listen to me for a minute, okay?
So, I ask, are you prepared to lead the life of a devil summoner?
And yes, my chat is reminding me that it's an action RPG. I didn't specify that, but yes, it is an action RPG. And so we have Raidou Remastered that is coming out on June 19th for this one. So our first Nintendo Switch 2 game from the series, and honestly, it is looking like a great pickup. I really can't wait till we get a regular flow of new Nintendo Switch 2 games on a weekly basis. But for the moment, this is the only Switch 2 targeted game. I do want to remind you all, however, although now we're going to be jumping into the Nintendo Switch 1 games, all of them are pretty much going to be running on the Nintendo Switch 2, and for a lot of them, you're actually going to be getting a better experience from the Nintendo Switch 2. One in particular I can vouch for personally, since I got a review code for it and I've played it on both consoles. It plays better on the Switch 2. So let's take a look now at the Nintendo Switch 1 games for this week. Now, our first game is going to be Songs of Conquest. Now, this game is coming out on June 17th. It will be selling for $29.99, and basically, this game is an acclaimed turn-based strategy RPG. If we read through this right here, it is basically it was originally released on PC in 2022. Now, I did check out the reviews. It sits around an 8 on the reviews on PC. I love the mix of sort of pixel art style with a map that seems more detailed. It gives like a sort of HD 2D feel, but it's not true HD 2D. Nonetheless, I think if you are in the market for a strategy RPG, this could be one to check out for this week. Let's take a look at the trailer and you'll see where this game sits. So like I said, you see a little bit more detailed environment with some pixel art overarching. It gives you a similar feel to HD 2D, but not truly. So the trailer is not too long, but it does give you a slight glimpse of what you expect. It's those strategy RPGs, and like I said, since it's sitting at around an 8 on the PC, I do think that this is a game that you could consider for this week. Not only that, but it's a $30 price point, which is pretty good if the game has a decent runtime. So our first game for this week is going to be Songs of Conquest. Now, jumping straight into our next one, we are remaining on June 17th, and that is going to be Lost in Random. The sequel to the first game, this one is going to be called The Eternal Die. Now, the game is releasing for this one on, I said June 17th, and it's going to be selling for $24.99. Now, this time it's going to be a fast-paced action roguelike set in the dark, whimsical world of Lost in Random. So the gameplay style is changing somewhat into a fast-paced action roguelike. Graphics look great. Gameplay looks extremely fun. Now, of course, we are getting a lot of these top-down action roguelikes on the Switch. However, nonetheless, I do think this one has an interesting enough gameplay uniqueness to it. And the world setup in Lost in Random was a pretty great one. So I personally am really happy that I'm going to get a chance to revisit it yet again. And at $24.99, it's a fair price point for this style of gameplay. Let's take a look at the trailer once again. This one is a little bit longer, so we're going to get a better look at the gameplay. I like the way they were implementing the dice as well, because I was wondering how they would connect it to the mechanics in the first game.
There's ancient magic in these.
And visually, the game's looking stunning. However, I'm going to tell you right away, this is not the game I played, but I'm expecting this one to run a lot better on the Switch 2 than on the Switch 1. I am slightly worried that on Switch 1, there will be slowdowns during the high action sequences, and I'm pretty sure the Switch 2 is going to come in and fix most of those problems. But if you're looking for a new action roguelike for this week, this looks like a visually stunning one. Super excited, and once again, like I said, it's set in a universe of Lost in Random that has great lore behind it. So now, with that one out of the way, let's take a look at our next game. Next, we have a game that honestly I didn't think was gonna make the list, but then when I saw the trailer, I was actually pleasantly surprised. And when I looked at the developer and publisher of the game, I was even more surprised, because they generally make pretty good games. And that is Disney's Tron Catalyst, that is coming out on June 17th once again, and is once again selling for $24.99. Now, this is a top-down action game. It is not a roguelike. This one has a storyline basis. However, it's looking pretty good. And honestly, I'm generally not a huge fan of movie tie-ins, but look, I'm willing to give this one a chance. And like I said, the publisher actually has some pretty decent games under their belt. Like Monster Train 2 is the same publisher as this one. So let's take a look at the gameplay, and you'll see that this Tron game might actually be a decent pickup for this week. Obviously, we have to wait for a review because I haven't actually played the game. But from from what I can tell from the trailer, looking pretty decent.
It was.
Oh, and Devolver's involved.
Core won't let you escape, Exo. And even if you do, nobody escapes the glitch.
Then, I fight them. Here.
Like, there seems to be a decent strategy element, however, to the gameplay. I do not know if there's a physical release for any of these games. I did not check. I know Raidou there is, but I do not know for the other ones. And honestly, the Tron elements seem to be really well integrated. You're right that it looks slow. I just think that it's maybe based on more of a strategic type of gameplay. And like I said, with the involvement of Devolver Digital, the publishers that are behind this, I would be willing to, I'm willing to give this one a chance. So I'm actually going to look into picking up a review key for this one. I had skipped it originally because it was Tron, but when I looked into it, checked out the trailers, this one sort of, it turned me around on it. I'm willing to give it a chance. So that's another one to look out for on June 17th. Now we have one game left for June 17th before we move on to our next dates. And that is a indie game that actually looks pretty freaking interesting. And that is Rooftops Alleys, that basically is a parkour game. Now, this one is releasing, like I said, June 17th. It is also selling for $24.99. This game totally gives me like old school Tony Hawk vibes, but with a different style of gameplay. But it still seems like the same thing where you're going to have different maps. Your point is to make it around the maps, hitting the high scores. You're most likely going to have objectives to hit on each one of the maps. And the trailer here actually, you'll see it's voiced over quite a bit. It details quite a few elements about the gameplay. And I would say that if you're into those like sports open world games, this seems like an extremely interesting one for this week, especially due that it's based on a sport that a lot of people are just, I would say, I don't want to say ignorant to, but I personally didn't know much about parkour and free running. And just watching this trailer, it actually looks freaking amazing.
Hey, this is Michael, the developer behind Rooftops Alleys.
And I think the art style that they chose for it is also really advantageous.
To the next best steel beam you can find. First of all, parkour and free running are not quite the same. While one focuses more on getting from A to B in the fastest way possible, the other is all about style, flow,
yeah, I know that Tony Hawk's going to be key cards, my man. Tony Hawk 3 and 4.
An engaging gameplay experience for players in solo and multiplayer. The game is easy to pick up, but hard to master, so stay strong as you jump headfirst.
Like, I love the movement, it looks so fluid and great. And you can see that it's ragdoll physics, but it doesn't look like cheap ragdolls.
Challenges, you will quickly improve your skill level to perform the craziest lines in the 6 different maps available at launch. Each map has its unique style, environment, and set of challenges, making sure to offer a fun and engaging playground for the action every time. With the game's intuitive controls, you have loads of tricks and moves at your disposal.
And it's been a while that we haven't had one of these like sports-based games that really feels like a different experience. And this one does it.
Meter going down, helping you get those super high scores. Mastering the movement is key to completing all challenges in the game and customizing the character to the style of your liking. Completing challenges in the game makes you earn feathers, which unlock over 100 different customization items for you and your pigeon with the built-in progression system. Oh yeah, you can totally be a pigeon in my game. Think of it as your free cam, your session marker, pin dropper, and most importantly, your little friend. In each map, you unlock the pigeon by exploring around and finding.
That's actually a really cool thing that the pigeon lets you explore, like, and set up like sort of your parkour beforehand. Yeah,
That's
the
not
movement
all.
looks
Parkour is also
extremely
fun with
fluid.
friends. Play online, hang out in free roam multiplayer, or engage in intense
And that's
games
what
with
reminds
tag,
me of
capture the
Tony
flag,
Hawk.
or tricks battle. And when you're tired,
Like,
just
you could
check out
jump into the
super cool photo
game,
mode,
not
which
know
has the
anything
craziest
about it,
freedom
and
of all,
still
with
manage
its
to pull off
highlight
some really
feature,
cool
the dull mode,
tricks.
and much, much more. With solo progression and multiplayer game modes, 6 unique maps, original in-game music, loads of challenges, endless trick combos, and tons of customization options to unlock, Rooftops Alleys will have you covered for a long time as soon as the game releases on June 17th.
So like I said, really cool release for this week. I think this one is going to fly under the radar for a lot of people, but I don't think it should be set aside. Once again, I'm looking forward to seeing what the experience is going to be like and performance on both Switch 1 and Switch 2 for this one. Okay, now let's jump into our next one. Now we're moving over to the 18th with Battle Train. Now I'm going to say I actually am super interested in the gameplay for this one. Now, Battle Train is going to be selling for $19.99. It is published by Bandai Namco, and it is basically the fusion of a roguelike deck builder and a track builder. And what I love is that it seems to be geared around playing against your friends. And honestly, the gameplay looks extremely interesting and extremely like a great fusion of strategy and deck building. And let's jump into the trailer because it's really hard to explain. I think it's best to take a look at it visually first.
Let's play some
Like, it even makes me feel somewhat like an RTS.
Compete on the world's most
Elements of an
popular game
RTS.
show. Play your cards, build your tracks, launch explosive locomotives to destroy your enemies.
So the trains, those are loaded with explosives?
Yes, glorious destruction.
And honestly, I love the
This is
characterizations here.
You have a shot at the big bucks and the title of President Conductor.
You are not worthy.
Demolish your friends' faces and dash the hopes and dreams of your family. Battle Train!
So who drives all these trains? Are they like remote controlled?
Yes, they are.
So as you can see, like, it really seems interesting. So basically, your deck helps you build your train course, and then your goal is to defeat your enemy on the other side by destroying his train tracks and his trains. So honestly, it really feels super innovative as gameplay. And I think that deck builders is a really hot ticket item right now in a lot of developers' minds. And this one actually has a really, really original twist to it. I will be answering that question for you very shortly, Living Legend. Thank you for the $2 donation. Very appreciated, my man. And you will be getting your answer, I guarantee you, very, very shortly, my man. And actually, why not give you your answer right now? Because our next game for this week is the game that my friend Living Legend is asking about, Chronicles of the Wolf. Now, this is a game that, yes, I already have played. I already have a review key for this game. I've had a chance to try it on Switch 1 and Switch 2. And although it does play on Switch 1 pretty well, it is a much even smoother experience on Switch 2. Now, Chronicles of the Wolf is a 2D action puzzle Metroidvania that is very, very feeling like classic Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It is a gorgeous game with, I would say, very, very fun mechanics, and we will have a chance to stream this game. Or maybe I'll just put out a video, one or the other, but it is guaranteed we're covering this game on the channel. I already have a review code. I've already been playing the game, and this one looks absolutely gorgeous. Let's take a look at the trailer, and I'm pretty sure, just as I was, you'll be convinced just by looking at it.
The beast cannot be
Not to
killed.
mention it's from Pixel Heart, which make a lot of games that I love.
Come forward.
Just the walking is classic Castlevania, man. And they mix in elements of Castlevania 2 with the day and night cycles.
It's getting late, traveler.
Beam of visibility.
The one thing I'm gonna warn, however, it is challenging. So be prepared for that if you are picking it up. But like I said, if you're looking for a visually stunning Metroidvania for this week, beautiful game. And yes, it is related, as you see from the Bloodstained series, or they're featuring a special appearance from Bloodless from the Bloodstained series. So they're doing a crossover already, because obviously you can see that there's a heavy deal of inspiration between those series. They're all pulling inspiration, however, from Symphony of the Night. So to be honest, this game already had a lot going for it before I even picked it up. And like I said, Pixel Heart makes some really great retro feeling games. So that is Chronicles of the Wolf. It is a game that I had been highly anticipating. I had my eye on it for over 2 months, and I was very happy when I finally got a review code for it. Great game for this week. If you're looking for something cool, you want to spend $20, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Now, if you have a Switch 2, you'll be getting smoother performance, however. Just throwing it out there. So our next game for this week is going to be what I would say would be my sort of long shot game of the week. Why? Because it is a top-down shoot 'em up. I really didn't hear about this game at all before I checked out the trailer, but it looks like it has enough original elements that even if you're into the shoot 'em up genre, and there are a ton on the Switch, this one has some really interesting elements. Number one, graphically, it has some really, I would say, high highs, and at the same time, it has an original, almost bullet time-like mechanic that you're going to see them use a couple of times during the trailer, which is a really interesting element for a shoot 'em up that, off the top of my head, I can't really think of another shoot 'em up that uses this mechanic, and it feels like a perfect fit. So let's take a look at the trailer. On top of it, this game is going to be coming out on June 19th, and it's going to be selling for only $9.99, or your local equivalent that you can check out up top. So let's take a look at Blast Rush LS. So obviously it has a lot of bullet hell elements. And there you saw really quickly one of the bullet time elements. But we'll see it a little better a little further down in the trailer. And here you go. Now you see it really used to its proper degree. And honestly, I'm really excited about that because it feels like it can be the perfect use. And I love the visuals on those super moves and those power beams. Like I said, it has some really high highs visually. Like the base look of the game maybe isn't stunning, but then when you unleash those big attacks, it really hits you hard. And I love that about shoot 'em ups. I think that's where it plays out the best, where it's sort of toned down during the regular gameplay, and then you got these moments where graphically it really turns it up. So if you're looking for a shoot 'em up for this week, I do think Blast Rush LS is going to be a safe pick, I would say, for this week, because it's really hard to get something like this wrong, especially with that great bullet time element added in. Awesome. Next, we have another, I would say, long shot for this week. We have Hungry Memes, which is releasing also on Hungry Meme, sorry, not Memes, Hungry Meme, releasing on June 19th and will be selling for $29.99. Now, this game, honestly, you're basically building the world tree with a storybook look, and I have a really hard time grasping exactly how the gameplay is going to play out, but the graphical style is so original that it pulled me in, and I definitely want to keep an eye on this one for this week. Not only that, but it's brought to you by the same developers as some pretty decent games out there. Like the developer does have some pretty decent games under its belt. So I do think it's worth paying attention to for this week. Let's take a look at the trailer. It's not a very long trailer, but I do think that if you're into sort of like management and world building, it seems extremely interesting. Honestly, I almost get like a PS1 vibe from it. So like I said, it's hard to get a grasp exactly of how it plays out. But the developer, for example, did Oni as well. If you know Oni, which was a game that had a really great visual concept, a great basic concept, it maybe just went a little bit too grindy in its gameplay. I think maybe this Hungry Meme game can possibly turn things around, and you can definitely see the same graphical influence here. But overall, if you want a long shot for this week, I think this one is one to keep an eye out for if you're into the sort of management life sim type of gameplay. Next we have a game that I will say is the game that has me most, how can I put this? I don't want to say excited, but it has me most interested for this week, because I think that this game can either be an absolute banger or it can feel like a cheap ripoff. And this is because we have a 3D action adventure game called Weko the Mask Gatherer that is releasing also on June 19th and will be selling for $21.99. And this is a action adventure, I will say it, Zelda-like. The game looks like it could have some amazing potential. But if you all know, it is also really easy to make a Zelda-like look good and then play not so good. So this one has me incredibly interested, yet I'm also very cautious. That was maybe the word I was looking for. I'm extremely interested, but very cautious as well. And I really hope I can get my hands on a review key for this one, because I think this one is worth looking into and really determining, is it worth picking up or not. So let's take a look at Weko the Mask Gatherer. And it sort of gives me that Majora's Mask type of vibe from the name. Like, you can see the puzzle and combat focus of the gameplay. And there we have Weko the Mask Gatherer. I don't know about you guys, but like I said, extremely interested, yet extremely cautious, I think, is the best way to look at this one for this week. But I definitely want to try it out. Hopefully we'll be able to. If you're a fan of Zelda likes, I would keep this one definitely on the radar for this week. Now, we are almost done. We have 2 games left for this week. Our next one is going to be Through the Nightmares. Now, Through the Nightmares is a hardcore 2D platformer with some tricks under its belt. The main gameplay mechanic here is that you're going to be able to shift different sizes, and you're going to have to do that on the fly to traverse the different levels. Now, this looks like a hardcore, very challenging game, so I would warn you against that for this week if you're not into that type of gameplay. It is also releasing on June 19th, and it's going to have a sales price of $19.99. Now, let's take a look at the gameplay, and then we will give our final verdicts on this one. Visually, the game looks stunning, by the way.
Once again, you have been summoned to the world known as the Nightmare. Another dreamer has been claimed. Okay. One more time. Once again, you have been summoned to the world known as the Nightmare.
Like they're telling you, you're going to have to redo the levels over and over again till you get them perfect.
Let's try again. Once again, you have been summoned to the world known as the Nightmare. Another dreamer has been claimed by the Lord of Dreams. Hurry and find him before he fades into oblivion.
Like, I'm getting Super Meat Boy vibes from it too.
Through the nightmares. Play the demo now.
And once again, looks like an amazing, visually stunning game for this week. I once again do think it's going to be playing better on the Switch too. If you look at the gameplay, this one is going to have a real importance on frame rate and having the game run smoothly. And I do think that, you know, unfortunately, it's going to be a recurring theme over the next little bit. But if you do have a Switch 2, I maybe think you're going to get more mileage out of that game than Switch 1. And our last game for this week is another game that is sort of after my heart, a 2D action platformer that looks like a blend of Mega Man with Metroidvania vibes to it. It is called Rusty Rangers, and this one is releasing on June 21st and will be selling for $15 or your local equivalent. And you guys know I'm a huge Mega Man fan, so anything that looks like it has even a bit of Mega Man influence definitely hits my radar right away, and this game definitely makes it. However, what really seems different is that you'll be able to play a multitude of different characters. Each seem to have a very different gameplay style, but all of them look interesting, and once again, the pixel art looks really good. So let's take a look at this last trailer for this week. Rusty Rangers. Now, some characters, as you can see, seem to have like blaster attacks. Others seem to have melee attacks. Others seem to have like flamethrower attacks. And this little guy is like mounted on a dragon all the time. So it's really cool to see that these different characters are available. Now, what I'm wondering is, can you switch on the fly, or do you select one and like make your way to a different area and you can only switch at checkpoints? But all this is going to be answered if we do get our hands on this game. And I think that at $15, it offers a fun experience. Could be definitely a great pickup for this week. And there we have a Rusty Rangers. So honestly, overall, a pretty good lineup of games for this week. Obviously, I think that the best pickups for this week, in my opinion, is going to be the Switch 2, Switch 1 release, which is Raidou. But overall, I think there's a lot of other great games to be excited about. Like Lost in Random, I think, is going to be another stellar pick for this week. And Chronicles of the Wolf is a no-brainer if you're a Metroidvania fan. Now, let me know in the comments down below, what was your favorite game of the list of this week? Once again, like I said at the beginning, if you think I missed out on a game too, let me know in the comments down below. Always appreciated. On the way out, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you aren't already, and click on that notification bell. And as usual, I'll see you in my next video.